welcome to a new episode of the Guru Perspective. I'm your host, Hugh Lee, the Guru himself, and I would like to talk to you about some things that happened over the weekend. It was a hell of a football week in college and the pros, especially when it gets to the playoffs. The college football playoffs have been absolutely phenomenal. It was a few games that were blowouts, but besides that, it was a lot of games that went down to the wire. And on top of that, the wild card weekend has been everything I expected. One game that kind of sizzled out, but I'll talk about that. And I've been looking at my phone, unfortunately, too, to see if there's any breaking news about that. I was definitely talking about that before, and I will get into that when I get into the NFL part of things. But let me start off and let me talk about the college football playoff semifinals. It was a really good semifinals. I definitely enjoyed the games and the two teams that was in it. One of the games, like I say, it kind of sizzled out. It wasn't even close, but other than that, I was enjoying the first game that took place, and that was number 10 Miami versus number 6 Ole Miss. Trinidad Chambliss, that kid is phenomenal. I definitely love what he do out there when he's scrambling and pass the ball, how poised he is. It seems like he's never rattled in big moments, and that's the reason why I love seeing him in the semifinals. Trinidad Chambliss had 277 yards, and he had a touchdown on the day. His running back, Kawan Lacey, had 11 carries for 103 yards, and he had a touchdown as well. On the other hand, Miami played really well too. Carson Beck seemed like he's been in these big moments and came up short, but right now he's definitely living his dream. He transferred from Georgia, after having success. And when he got injured, I believe they wanted to move on, unfortunately. And Gunnar Stockton was their guy. So he went over in a transfer portal, which was actually a good thing for him. It's a whole lot of stuff I want to talk about when we get to the transfer portal. But at the same time, this was a good thing, him going and finding his place in the University of Miami. And this is where his career picked up at tremendously. Carson Beck had 268 yards. He had 2 touchdowns and a pick on the day. And running back Mark Fletcher, man, he's been balling out of control. I definitely feel like if this is his senior year, he's going to be one of the top prospects to look out for as far as running backs in the draft. He had 22 carries for 133 yards. And Keelan Marion had one really good play that I liked in his game, but he had more than just that. He had 7 receptions, a touchdown, and 114 yards to go on the game. But it was a really good game, and I enjoyed it because it went down to the wire. I still feel like it. A lot of other people complained because it was definitely a pass interference on Miami, and it was like they double teamed the guy. The guy the furthest away from him definitely held on to him, and that should have been called in the end zone. They let them play. I don't understand why, when that should have definitely been something that was called. But the crazy part about it was Carson Beck ran a touchdown in, and we thought that was going to seal the game because it wasn't that many seconds left. I think it was like 14, 13 seconds left. Trinidad Chambliss, man, threw a cannon down the field. They got down to damn near like the 20-yard line and gave them a chance. Miami fans, Carson Beck, a lot of people were sick. But that play should have been called. Since it didn't, I can't complain. It was still a hell of a game. That final score was 31-27, and Miami goes on to the championship round. And I want to talk about briefly number 5, Oregon versus number 1, Indiana. Indiana's definitely number 1 for a reason, especially after this score. Dante Moore didn't really get it going. He had some bad plays in this one, a lot of fumbles in this game. But he had 285 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he had a pick. De'Aaron Hill Jr. had 86 yards. Jamari Johnson had 4 receptions and he had a touchdown for Oregon. But on the other hand, reigning MVP Fernando Mendoza had 177 yards and a ridiculous 5 touchdowns. He got a lot of those touchdowns up close because they were getting the ball, and there was a lot of fumbles and guys couldn't hold on to the ball in the game. But that's what kind of took it and made it out of hand. I thought it was going to be a little closer than what it was until it wasn't. Keelan Black had 12 carries, 63 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And I felt like that definitely was the difference maker right there. I just felt like Indiana came to play on both sides of the ball, and the mistakes that were made cost Oregon in this one, and it was disappointing because I feel like Oregon had a good year, and I thought that as a Big Ten contest that this was going to be relatively close, but it wasn't. So yeah, I was a little dissatisfied with that. And Elijah Surratt, if I'm saying his name correctly, had 75 yards on 7 receptions, and he had 2 touchdowns on the day too. And Indiana just steamrolled Oregon. It wasn't really much to really explain to talk about. That final score was Indiana had 56 and Oregon had 22. And of course, the number one seed is moving on and going to the championship round. And I definitely felt like it was going to be that way. I would definitely be giving my predictions, but yeah, kind of figure where I'm going at with this one. Where anything is possible, and I'm definitely glad. That's why you play to win the game. We're going to talk about the wild card rounds now when it comes to the NFL. I definitely want to talk about that because it was really fun to watch too. It was some hell of a football this weekend. And this is what I really feel like the playoffs should be about. The one thing I don't like is when you see playoffs and teams just get steamrolled in those first rounds, like the wild card round. But everybody kind of held their own until last night, and we will definitely discuss that. Okay, let's get into it, you guys. Damn, I am really proud of Bryce Young, and I would like to say, and I told my co-host E Buck, on the Wednesday show that I have to eat crow on both shows, starting with my show. I just said that I don't really trust Bryce, Young right now, and I didn't think that he was going to do what he actually did in this game. At some point, he was outplaying Matthew Stafford, and actually, to be honest with you, I believe he did outplay Matthew Stafford. Yes, you're gonna see his stats and the numbers, and you're gonna be like, well, yeah, it don't match because statistically Matthew Stafford did better, but I can't really say that much. I believe definitely that Bryce Young outplayed Matthew Stafford this game. He was good when it came to scrambling. He was poised. The moment wasn't too big for him, I feel like, at this point. And it stunned me because I just threw the guy under the bus and let him drag 30 miles, on a Wednesday show. But I was really happy to see what happened because it definitely let me know that he belongs. He's a little dude, like 5'10, 185 pounds, but he did pretty good. His arm basically showed up in his game. You had guys who made spectacular plays in this game too, who I was surprised that really stepped up. And right now, I think that, I thought that Xavier Legette was going to step up, especially being his sophomore year. I thought he was going to be the receiver that people look up to have the highlights over there in Carolina. But actually, right now, it's been, Tatior McMillan. He's really stepped up and he's been good in the clutch. But you got to give credit where credit is due to that brother, Jalen Coker. We didn't think Jalen Coker would step up and play this well right now, especially knowing that Xavier Legette came out and he was in the first round. But this is a guy who, if I'm not mistaken, is an undrafted player too. And I want to talk about his performance, man. Jalen Coker had 9 receptions and a touchdown for 134 yards. And every time they needed a big play, he was right there to make that play. Chuba Hubbard played okay. They had the ball close a lot of times in the red zone, and he capitalized. He had 13 carries for 46 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Bryce Young, like I said, on the stats and on paper, it might not look like he did well or as well as he did, but he had 264 yards, a touchdown, and he had a pick on the day. And that pick was at the end of the game when they were trying to get close in the field goal range. And, I feel like at that moment, that pick still didn't justify what they did because they damn near beat the Rams again twice. Everybody felt like the first time it was a fluke, and they didn't feel like that was going to happen the second time. But let me tell you, yes, they possibly could have lost that game. So I definitely want to tell you my stats and what's going to happen next week and kind of give my predictions. But I want to talk about the MVP right now, who I believe after this game, he solidified that. Matthew Stafford had 304 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he had a pick as well. Kyron Williams didn't do as good as I thought he would with 13 carries and 57 yards, but Puka Nakua is that guy. You best believe. It's funny because he had a Cooper Cup over there at one point, and now he have a Puka Nakua and uh, Devontae Adams. And I didn't think that this combination was going to gel this good. And I didn't think this team was going to develop and do as well as fast. That's what I say when I be saying defense wins championships, to get the good defense. And at some point, they didn't even have the draft picks to do it, at least the first rounders. And they just put up a masterpiece. I can't really say the defense did phenomenal because they did still give up 31 points. But Puka Nakua had 10 receptions. He had 111 yards and he had a touchdown as well. But yeah, this was a really good game. I don't think people give credit where the Carolina Panthers deserve. But that final score, regardless, was 34-31. And the Rams move on to the divisional round. But at the same time, the Panthers need to keep their heads up. I just seen that Bryce Young, they took the 5th-year option. I think they need to pay this man to stop playing because he proved this year for sure he belonged. What I like about it is, too, is the fact that when he plays, I believe Brian Canales now look at him and he look at him as a true NFL quarterback. He definitely showed he belonged in some of the big games, but they had such an iffy season. But this game really showed a lot. Even though they were 8-9 and they barely got in the playoff, people said, but they took them to the limit, the Los Angeles Rams. This was my favorite game of the weekend. And I know I'm being a little biased, but because, Stafford used to play for us. And then, when you got Bryce Young, I'm an Alabama fan as well for my family. Shouts out to my family in Alabama. But yeah, that was a hell of a game. I couldn't take nothing away from that. And another crazy game. Damn, the Saturday games really stepped up. The Sunday games wasn't as bad until the Monday game, let's be honest. But let me move on. I want to get off into this game right here. The Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. Damn, this is a rivalry. This is a great rivalry at that. This is not just a rivalry. This is one of those when the NFL was formed. These was like some of the first teams was going to combat and was going to battle back then. And this is a long, drawn out, rivalry right here. And you can tell Matt LaFleur is a little bit more poised and mature about his situation. Ben Johnson just a little bit, I think he get a little carried away. But at the same time, it's a lot of hate over there in both organizations. I know the Green Bay has owned with, not only Aaron Rodgers, but now Jordan Love. They've literally owned the Bears. And now this was a justifiable game for Chicago and a hell of a comeback at that as well. I want to get off into the stats too. I want to say that Caleb Williams played pretty decent. At some point, he wasn't playing good until like it got into that second half. That's why it was good tell of two tapes. The first half, not so well. The second half, he adjusted. He had 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he had 2 picks on the day. DeAndre Swift gave him yards when they needed it. He had 13 carries, 54 yards, and he had a score as well. But this guy right here, man, Colson Loveland, everybody looked and they felt like Taiwan was the best tight end, possibly still is, let's be honest, but still, Chicago Bears in the playoffs and Colson Loveland have been looking really well right now with 8 receptions, 137 yards. Jordan Love looked really consistent until he wasn't. It seems like he played well. He didn't give up the ball, but when they needed him in the big moments, he didn't step up. Jordan Love had 323 yards and he had 4 touchdowns. That sounds phenomenal. But at the end of the day, when you blow a 18-point lead, yeah, I don't know, man. And then, you've been hearing rumblings right now because you have Matt LaFleur, whose contract is due. And it's like they're kind of hesitant right now. But I feel like if they know what's best for them, they'll definitely keep him because Matt LaFleur is not really the problem. It was Jordan Love in a big moment right now. And I just don't really feel like that he wanted it. Well, I can't say he wanted it. He didn't live up to the expectations that everybody was saying because 2 years ago, everybody felt like he was that guy. They felt like he was going to blossom and finally be the guy in the NFC North. Not only that, but be the MVP of the league and take over the league by storm and win a Super Bowl for Green Bay. That didn't happen quite just yet. Let's get to his stats. He had 323 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like I said, it looks like, and on paper, it was phenomenal, but he just didn't rise to the occasion when they really needed him to. Josh Jacob has 19 carries for 55 yards. Romeo Dobbs looked pretty good in this game, and it seemed like he couldn't be stopped. 8 receptions, 124 yards, and a touchdown. So it was some really good, promising moments in this game, and it was back and forth. But at the same time, I couldn't even say it was back and forth. It was just a blowout at one point when you look at it, because it was like 7-3 in the first half. Then the Packers scored another 14 points. So it was 21-3 going into the half. The Bears kicked a field goal in the third quarter, and then they rambled off for 25 points, and Green Bay settled for two field goals. That final score was 31-27. So I just was a little disappointed because I feel like Green Bay didn't show the passion that I thought they would show. But at the same time, just for the comeback and for, the Chicago Bears and Ben Johnson, they was riled up, and he had a lot of controversy because they showed the video in the locker room. He said, F the Bears. And when they asked him in the press conference, he was like, man, I didn't stutter. It's a heated rivalry. We don't like them guys. You could tell from the handshake. It was very funny and a little controversial at the same time. But that 31-27 victory for the Bears was the sweetest because they was owned by the Green Bay Packers for so long. And it's just to the point where they finally got that monkey off their back. So congratulations to the Chicago Bears for moving on too as well. The Chargers and the Patriots game wasn't so well. I thought that it'd be a little better than this, but Drake May didn't really do as much as you thought he would, even though you see on paper and you see the 268 yards and the touchdown. He had a pick too that went in the red zone, but then the defense basically held firm in this one. And defense win championships, like I said. Justin Herbert was getting banged around a lot, pause, but he was getting really roughed up in this game. He had 159 yards, but that O line you could tell was a problem because it was so many sacks given up. Man, I just felt like for comfort, they should have just took him out the game so he wouldn't get hurt and let Trey Lance get a little bit of that beating. But yeah, it wasn't even close. Justin Herbert also had 57 yards, so he was the actual quarterback trying to pass the ball, and he was the running back running the ball. Lad McConkey had 3 receptions for 32 yards, but it wasn't even close this game. It was just a dominant performance by New England. Drake May had 10 carries for 68 yards, and Ramondre Stevenson had 3 receptions for 75 yards. That final score was 16-3. And that's all I really want to say about that game. And we're definitely about to move on. This was another good game right here. I picked Jacksonville because I thought Jacksonville was ready, but then at the same time, there's nothing more better than experience in this one. I don't feel bad because I still had the Buffalo Bills going to the Super Bowl, so it was kind of a mixed reaction to this game, but I definitely felt like Jacksonville was just as good as the Bills. I thought they were better as far as talent, but the Bills showed me a little different in this one. Trevor Lawrence had 207 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he had 2 picks on the day. That kind of hurt him too with that performance. Out of all the good performances he had, he decided in that game to get those 2 costly picks. And I believe what was the icing on the cake, that 4th and 2, when they went for it to try to get the touchdown, and he got tackled and his knee went down, and it was a turnover on downs. And then after that, it was like a 92-yard drive that the Buffalo Bills just methodically went down the field, and it seemed like they took the life out of Jacksonville after that. And they never changed. And you got to give credit where credit is due because Josh Allen basically put on his cape like he needed to do. Trevor Etienne had a pretty good run in the game on the ground. He had 10 carries for 67 yards. But this kid right here, man, Parker Washington, we all looked and we thought that Travis Hunter was going to be that guy on offense. And, he was going to play a little defense, but more offense. I'm thinking now after seeing this performance that they would definitely do better having him full time on defense and just have Parker Washington play, man, because that guy was explosive. He had 7 receptions for 107 yards, and he had a score on the day. Josh Allen had 273 yards, and he had a touchdown. They put James Cook in place in this game. He had 15 carries for 46 yards. And Khalil Shakir had 12 receptions for 82 yards. But at the end of the day, it was all Josh Allen, and he helped them with his will and perseverance, and he pulled out that game for them. That final score was 27-24 in a really good close game. But keep your head up, Jacksonville, because you got a good team. Liam Cohen's a hell of a coach, and I believe you'll definitely be there next year. Because while all these other teams like Josh Allen and some of these guys are getting older, you're starting to get more experience, like in the Trevor Lawrence and the Travis Etienne and some of these younger teams that's coming out. And they're coming out and they're going to come to get you. The 49ers in the Philadelphia Eagles game was a shocker to me because I believe I picked Philly because I feel like they had more health. And then, the saying, the best ability is availability. And at this point, I feel like the healthier team would prevail. But you could tell something's going on over there. It was always some dirty laundry there since they was winning. It was kind of like it was a band-aid to, cover up all the issues they have. It's locker room issues, AJ Brown talking out of control and saying things when he shouldn't. And then, you just had a team who just limped their way in, licking their wounds, and they just did what they had to do. This is kind of crucial right now, too, because this is to the point where what are they going to do with Coach Nick Sirianni? What's going to happen with AJ Brown? And what's going to happen after they got put out the way they did in this wild card round after going to the Super Bowl last season? And it's not guaranteed to be a Super Bowl champion back to back, but at the same time, you at least have to have pride and play with a little more dignity than what they did. Nick Sirianni, you don't do that to your players too on the sideline, like belittle them, like how you did with AJ Brown. I don't think that he'll be back, and I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there. Jalen Hurts had 168 yards and a touchdown. Saquon Barkley had 26 carries for 106 yards as well. And Devontae Smith had 8 receptions for 70 yards. Brock Purdy had 262 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 2 picks on the day, so he wasn't clean. Christian McCaffrey had 15 carries for 48 yards. But this kid right here that came from Kansas City and the Rams really stepped his game up. Demarcus Robinson, he had 6 receptions for 111 yards and a touchdown. He had a really good performance. At the end of the day, the trick plays and the things that San Francisco did, I like to give credit where credit is due to Kyle Shanahan. It was wonderful the way he executed some of them plays. And that's what I believe stunned Philly. Some of them trick plays caught them off guard. And that was the actual difference to me in this game. That final score was 23-19. Philly went home. And the injured, beat up team right now, which I believe they lost George Kittle on the year 2 with an ACL injury. So it's more injury news for them, but they keep moving on. And to win that playoff game like they did, that just speaks volumes for them. And then unfortunately for the Eagles, they're going to have to hit the reset button. But I don't think a lot of those guys in that locker room, hell, not even the coach might be back next year. We're gonna move on now, and we're gonna talk about this Monday game. It's like sometimes you look and you be like, "Do I have to?" But yeah, man, I'm gonna talk about this one. My sister was happy because she said, "Hell, they feel like she felt like we got cheated by some of them calls on the Steelers game." And it was ridiculous. Let's be honest, but I don't even want to talk about that because that's the past, and this is the now the present. CJ Stroud looked really bad at some point in this game. And then I have to admit, CJ Stroud, he kind of took a step back, and Bryce Young seemed like he's taking steps forward right now in this part of their careers. And you're going to always compare the two because they were number 1 and 2 in the draft. I got to give credit where credit is due and give some of that to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. He had 250 yards, a touchdown, and an interception on the day. Running back Woody Marks looked really good in his game. He had 19 carries, 112 yards, and a touchdown. I'm starting to think, too, with Nick Chubb, he could possibly hang it up. And I see now why the Cleveland Browns feel like, yeah, we didn't want to continue to keep him on our payroll and let him walk. He didn't do too bad yesterday, but he definitely don't look like the star back that he used to be. And Woody Marks definitely is that guy. Christian Kirk, man, that dude was everywhere. And it's crazy, too, because Nico Collins got injured on the play when he hit his head on the turf and got carted off the field. But Christian Kirk definitely stepped up, and this is the reason why they made the trade from Jacksonville. He had 8 receptions for 144 yards and a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers, on the other hand, had a pretty rough night from that defense. Daniil Hunter, you had Will Anderson, and you even had Sheldon Rankins, who got a scoop and a score in this game. Don't get it twisted. It wasn't like CJ Stroud was just throwing the ball all over the place, too. If it wasn't for the pick and the score, and it wasn't for the scoop score with the fumble, that this game would have looked a little uglier than what it really was. That defense saved him. And then, you had to run with Woody Marks, but yeah, Stroud wasn't as spectacular as that score looked, man. He got to definitely praise that defense. That final score was 30-6. And I definitely wanted to see this matchup coming up for next week. I want to get into my college prediction now because we're into the championship game, of course. And in this game right now, just to let you guys know, they have Indiana as a favorite, 8.5 point favor in this one. And the crazy part is this game is played in Miami. I still don't believe that even matter as well because when it comes down to, I still feel like it's going to be a closer game than people think. But I definitely will say I will take the points in this one. I would even say I believe that they will win by 10. I might be wrong, but I doubt it because the Indiana Hoosiers definitely did everything they said they were going to do this year and then some. So I'm just really surprised at how well they've been playing. But you got to give credit where credit is due. I wouldn't even be surprised if Miami proved me wrong because Carson Beck been proving me wrong all this year. And not only that, but that team really stepped up with, Marcus Fletcher and the guys that's on that staff. So yes, I would like to say I'm going to give them that 8.5 point favor right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if Miami definitely pull off this miracle, especially at home. I want to get off into the divisional round too. I'm sorry, you guys. Let me get all this situated. And okay, in the divisional round, I want to give my picks. You have the Buffalo Bills at Denver. I don't really feel like Denver's offense is tearing it up. And I believe, if anything, if they get saved, I believe they have one of the best defenses in the league, a little better than the Jaguars, who stifled and gave Josh Allen problems until he put on that cape. Yeah, I'll give them the 1.5 point favor at home. I know it's going to be a close competitive game because of Josh Allen is who he is, and he's not just going to let you steamroll him. I would be surprised if the game got out of hand, but I definitely will give the advantage to Denver and how good their defense is. And if Bo Nix can perform and Cortland Sutton can make some good plays, I definitely have them winning this game and moving on. The 49ers and the Seahawks. I'm going to definitely go with the Seahawks in this one because I feel like the best ability is availability. Like I've always said, 49ers lost George Kittle, and it was a really crucial moment of the contest when they played. And the Seahawks are the healthier team. I think it's going to be a lot of Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. And then I believe Sam Darnold's going to execute and play well. I don't think at this moment, especially after playing the way he's been playing this season and after this, little bye that they had, that he's just going to come up short. So yeah, I'm going to go with them, and I'm going to take the 7.5 point favor at home, which is probably one of the biggest wins they have as far as one of the playoff teams. Texans and the Patriots going to be a really good one. It's going to be a hell of a contest. If he got stifled, that's Drake May by the Chargers defense. Oh man, wait till he see what's in store with this Texans defense. Still, that being said, I believe the Patriots will pull this off at home, and I'll give them the 3 point advantage. The reason why, because I feel like Drake May is a little bit more talented than CJ Stroud, and CJ Stroud make a lot of bad decisions when he don't need to. I thought he developed enough, especially after the first season, that he would be able to read the defenses and learn to scramble or get rid of the ball when necessary. But yeah, that last game I seen Monday wasn't too good. So I believe that the Patriots will move on just because of Drake May and some good stops on defense. But the one thing I could say, they better hope that they still have Christian Gonzalez, because if he's out, that might cause a problem as well. And then you have the late night game on Sunday. the 6:30 game with the Rams and the Chicago Bears. I'm going to go with the Rams in this one, and I'll take them a little under that 3.5. I'll go with the 1.5 on this one because I feel like the Bears, if they can get some stops or get some turnovers on this team, that they can possibly, yes, I'm saying this, they could possibly beat the Rams. But that being said, I don't think that Matthew Stafford will do anything like as far as give up too many points or at the same time cause a lot of turnovers off of his arm. He will not allow that to happen. He might get a pick, but I don't think he's going to play poorly enough for them to pull this game off, even though it's going to be in Chicago. I'm going to definitely take them with the 1.5 point favor because, like I said, it can go any way, any given Sunday or any playoff game. So, that being said, that's everything for me. And unfortunately, too, I was looking at my phone all day to trying to figure out what was going to happen with Mike Tomlin since I didn't hear anything yet. I believe if he decide on his own that he wants to leave, that might be the case. But then, after seeing what happened with Coach Harbaugh, seeing that John Harbaugh basically could have went to any team he wanted to right now. But I thought that he was going to stay. But then when all the confusion and the things that happened and, him losing Lamar Jackson, man, like I said, anything is possible. So I'm just going to go on and say, that being said, I want to say thank you all for checking out the show. I hope you guys had a good time. I just wanted to briefly get on here and tell you the exciting stuff that was going on in football. And at the same time, we have a new show that's going to be out on Thursday. It's Two Brothers on the Couch or Two Unks Watching Videos. We're going to talk about some of your favorite sitcoms like that 70s show. We talked about Facts of Life. We're going to talk about the Jeffersons, just a lot of things. And we're going to talk about the origin of them from the spinoff perspective and all that good stuff that I believe you will enjoy. For people who don't watch sports, we want to give you an opportunity to just talk and kind of hang out and kick it with us as well. But definitely go to my links, click like and subscribe. I got them all, my link tree. And at the same time, I'm about to give you guys a rundown. You can catch me on Instagram, Hoovy, WHOOVI. And I basically put out a lot of stuff that we're working on as far as promos and kind of give you news, late breaking news, or anything that's going on around the leagues. And at the same time, on Facebook, I'm Sports Guru to You. I usually put up my breaking news and anything that's going on in the scores as well. And I definitely been loving the interactions on there. Thank you guys. And then my TikTok, I put up video highlight reels, promos. I do everything I could on that program and that network. I would like to say thank you and shout outs to TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram for always showing me your love and support. And of course, like I said on TikTok, I'm Hugh.Lee6. And I would like to say thank you all and have a blessed day. And until then, I will see you next week.